Hello and you're very welcome to the JMac Podcast. I'm John Man. Of course, the podcast brought to you by orgret.com. Use the code JMac Podcast to get 15% off on their website. And today I'm joined by former Dublin footballer and current New York footballer, Shane Carty, to talk about last weekend's championship action and, of course, this weekend's championship action. So we're really looking forward to chatting to Shane today. Shane, how are you keeping?
Good, yeah. All is well. Sunny day here. It's about 30 degrees over in Boston. It's nice and warm. What about yourself? How are you?
I'm just back from Lanzarote, my man. Landed back yesterday now, so it's absolutely, the rain is coming down in Cavan and 25 degrees most days over there, so a bit of a come down, but sure, we get used to it. we will get used to it, but such is life. Life moves on, and glad to be back doing the pods anyway, a bit of a break, so it's good to be back in the swing of things. And I suppose, Shane, how's life been? Obviously, since the Sligo game in the County Championship, obviously getting bet, but still it's good to be getting to them places.
Yeah, like we had always said, anything after Leitrim was bonus territory. So we were probably disappointed with the performance more so than the result. Like the result in the end wasn't a true reflection of the team. I think we're a better team than that. But yeah, like it was always going to be a difficult task going back. A lot of lads haven't travelled. Sometimes some of the lads haven't played in those kind of soft ground conditions. So that was just a good experience. And the main thing was again the beating Leitrim. That was the first time they won in 23 years. So anything extra was bonus.
I suppose coming away obviously from the game, obviously Sligo were beat in the Connacht final, so it was last weekend, Shane. But I suppose, was there much disappointment after the game? Like, how did you feel, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit of disappointment. We did a good night on the Saturday. In fairness, so we didn't dwell too much on it. But no, I was disappointed to see that Sligo didn't give Galway a bit more of a game. I thought they just never really got into the game. Whereas against us, they got a great start. They got a goal, within 3 or 4 minutes, and that really made us chase the game. And we were always on the back foot then. But if you look at the weekend, they had a good start, and then they just never really kicked on. And Galway just showed their class. They've been there the last few years. They look like serious All-Ireland contenders now.
Yeah, Galway do look seriously impressive, and obviously a great win against Sligo last weekend. I suppose we can touch briefly on the games that did take place last weekend. Obviously, probably not a whole pile of maybe talking points from the games, unfortunately, and just probably shows where the provincial championships are at, unfortunately, Shane. But in the Munster Senior Football Championship final in the TUS Gaelic grounds, it was Kerry 5-14, Clare 15 points. And obviously, the talking points going into this game was the passing of Ellen Clifford, obviously David Clifford and Paddy Clifford's mum, and God be good to her. Obviously, like, she passed away on the Saturday, and obviously the Clifford boys taking part in the game, playing the game, doing the man proud, fair play to them. But unfortunately, that's probably all you could say about this particular game, Shane.
Yeah. I mean, I still believe that there's a great place for the provincial championships. Like Clare, they deserve to be there. They beat Cork. So I think fair play to them for getting to the final. Obviously, look, no matter where you're playing Kerry, it's always going to be tough. I think Kerry just showed their class, and obviously the difficult situation for the two Clifford brothers, I think it nearly galvanised Kerry even more. So Clare were always going to be up against a real tough task that day. But I think Kerry seem to be getting stronger every week. They look like they're really ironing out all the kinks, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them in an All-Ireland final fairly soon.
Yeah, it's a seriously impressive performance, and obviously the Clifford's combined for a goal as well. I think that's really one of the highlights of the game, and fair play to the pair of boys taking part, because I'm not sure many other men would, and the very best luck to Kerry going forward, and obviously Clare will be very disappointed with that. But unfortunately, this is what we signed up for. And then in the Connacht Senior Football Championship final in the Hastings McHale Park, it was Galway 220, Sligo 12 points. Mr. Carty, we have not learned much from that game in particular either.
No, probably not really. If anything, it just shows that there's still a big gap between some of the top 3 or 4 Division 1 teams and probably the rest. There's probably, I heard Cora Staunton saying there last week in the Sunday game, there's probably 3 tiers, and she's probably right. I think like the Galways, Kerrys, Dublins are probably a step ahead, and then there's a big gulp in the middle, and then there's probably another gap again at the bottom. So yeah, I mean, look, Sligo had a fortunately easy enough run into the kind of final, and they got their real first test, and Galway just seemed to be clicking through the gears easy enough. They didn't look like they had to get out of second or third gear, and it's always impressive when you can win without your top players really having to do too much. Shane Walsh wasn't really in the game, and Comer didn't have to do too much either. So I was very impressed with Matthew Tierney from Galway, wing forward. He played very well. So I think the Galway are developing a lot of really good players that I think come the business end of the season, they're not really going to be reliant on the Comers and the Walshes anymore. Like if you look at last year's final, obviously Shane Walsh stole the show a bit, but this year I think it might be a bit different. If they can get more out of the other guys around the pitch, they'd be really in the mix for the business end.
I suppose one talking point from the game was the saying off the ball. I think it was that Tony McEntee was saying about the round robin fixtures, and obviously the potential of Sligo playing maybe Dublin in one of the round robin games. He was saying like it would only be fair if that game was played in, I guess, with Kingspan Breffni Park and Cavan instead of Croke Park, maybe to even the circumstances up a bit. But what would be your general thoughts on that particular statement?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Dublin are happy to play wherever. That football team, that you always hear the noise outside of the camp. But anytime, if you ask any one of the players or anyone involved with the team, they'd say they'll play anyone, anywhere, whether it's on the island or off the island. They don't really mind. They're confident to play anywhere. So I'd say that's probably the GAA, Leinster Council that make those decisions. They're probably looking at the ticket sales more than anything, but I think it's unfair to brand that at the actual Dublin GAA or Dublin team, because they don't really look into that. I'm sure they're happy to play in Cavan. They're happy to play anywhere. Realistically, I think those games are a bit of a dead rubber. There's too many games I think it nearly takes the glass or off the championship. Personally, I preferred when it was, you had your provincials and you were straight into round of 16 or knockout football. I think now it's just, Sligo are going to play 3 or 4 games. Realistically, they're going to be up against it in all those games. Now, does that bring them on? I don't really know. Would they be better in a Tailteann Cup situation? Who knows? But too many games, I think, is also not great for the game, because then the quality drops. People start tuning out, and it's just like, we'll turn it back on when it's in the semi-finals and the final stages.
Yeah, too many games and a lack of quality probably is what would spring to mind there. And I suppose, Shane, we can touch on to this weekend's action in the Tailteann Cup round 1. You have Cavan against Laois in Kingspan Breffni Park at 4 p.m. Of course, that game will be live in GAA Go. You have Limerick against Longford in the TOS Gaelic Ground at 6 p.m. You have Down against Waterford in Park Esther at 6 p.m. and then you meet against Tipperary in Park Tailteann at 6:30. Suppose Cavan Laois game, Shane, briefly, what would you be thinking for that one?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably going to be a fairly one-sided. I think Cavan got promoted. I know they're probably unhappy with their performance in the Ulster Championship against Armagh, but I'd say that's a fairly one-sided game for me. Laois seemed to be going backwards a bit. Couldn't get out of Division 4. So yeah, I'd say that's a Cavan by 6 or 7 points anyway.
Well, thank you for that, Shane. You're on the good big level. You Limerick and Longford and TOS Gaelic Grounds. What do you think for that one?
That one's probably the tightest fixture of the lot, I'd say. Limerick, who knows? I know they got relegated. Longford, not great either, but I think it really kind of shows who wants to be playing in the Tailteann Cup. A lot of these teams will have regrouped, and some teams you'll see will come out and they won't be arsed, and then other teams will come out and they'll really try and push for it. So that one, that one's a tough one to call. I'd say it'd be a couple of points either side.
And then I suppose Down Waterford in Down. I suppose you would need to be Albert Einstein to guess that one.
No, yeah, like I remember reading something about they were doing a review of Waterford football. Like, yeah, I don't know where Waterford football is right now, to be honest. So that's probably a cricket score, unfortunately, for them, travelling all the way up to Down. You can't do that one now, to be honest.
Yeah, and then Meath tip in Meath, a home game for Meath. Meath badly need to get off to a good start if they've any intentions of winning that Tailteann Cup, Shane.
Yeah, like you'd have to question the attitude of the Meath footballers and just the county in general in terms of the GA. Like I just can't see how they've gone so far back. Like it's not too long ago they were in All Ireland finals and really competing for Leinster championships against Dublin, and now it seems like they've completely fallen off the radar.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense when you see Louth doing so well and a county with half the population really, if not less. And you see what Mickey Hart's done there. So yeah, I mean, Meath really just need to push on and try and win this Tailteann Cup so that they can get some sort of positive on the season.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they get on and can they get their house in order for the Tailteann Cup, because it's definitely not where Meath football deserves to be. And then we'll move on to the other Tailteann Cup fixtures on Sunday. You have Fermanagh against Wexford in Brewster Park at 1 p.m. What do you think of that one, Shane?
Yeah, I think Fermanagh, that one, especially when it's up north, I would say Fermanagh by 6 or 7 points. They seem like a solid enough team.
Yeah, be interested to see his Sean Quigley feature, especially after the hamstring injury he had that ruled him out against Derry. Be interested to see Mr. Quigley come back for that particular game. And then you have Antrim against Leitrim in Carrick Park at 1 p.m.
Yeah, that one I fancy Leitrim. I think they would have galvanised themselves a bit after that loss. They probably would have taken a good bit of abuse. So I think they're going to come back out fighting. Wouldn't be surprised to see them go deep into the Tailteann Cup. Whether they win it or not, I don't know. But I'd like to think they're going to give it a good rattle, which I'd be happy to see, to be honest.
And then you have Offaly against London in Glennisk O'Connor Park at 2 p.m. And then obviously I think news broke today that a couple of Offaly players are off. I think he's at the States are going travelling. I think they've lost 4 players. I don't know if you heard any of the Offaly lads going out abroad for the summer.
I haven't, no. But yeah, like, see, that's kind of the point I made earlier on. Like, a lot of players will drop off from the Tailteann Cup, and be interesting to see if it happens in on some of the other counties. But again, I think Offaly are too strong there after getting to Crow Park last week, and that extra time loss to Louth was very tight. So look, they had a good win in the first round of the championship. So against Meath, I know that was a big game for them. So I still think they'll be comfortable enough against London, to be honest.
Yeah, there should be a bit of a foregone conclusion there, you would be thinking. And then you've last game of the Tailteann Cup, you've Wicklow against Carlow in Aughrim at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not the highest quality game you're going to have, but I would say Wicklow at home, I would fancy them there. Carlow seem to be going backwards a couple of steps. They're another one that have lost a couple of players over the last couple of years. So I'd be confident that Wicklow would win that by about 4 or 5 points.
Oisin McConnell will be happy, man, if that does come true. And then we'll move on to the big stuff in the Leinster Senior Football Championship final. You have Dublin against Louth in Croke Park at 1:45. Of course, again, be live on RT2, so it'll not be on GA Go, so people can calm down maybe for the weekend, hopefully. Mr. Cardy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Louth, like what's gone on there in the last couple of years is very, very impressive, and it just goes to show like that the so-called weaker counties can get their act together and compete. You see there what Mickey Hart has done, got them to a Leinster final. They were nearly unlucky not to get promoted out of Division 2. So it just really does go to show, like, if you get the right people in place, that anything is possible. I think, look, they're going to come up against a Dublin side that probably weren't happy with their performance the last day against Kildare. So realistically, I think if Louth can get off to a good start, keep the game tight, I hate to see defensive football, but I think they're going to have to kind of try and tame Dublin's offense. So I'd like to think it'll be tight in the first half, and then the second half, Dublin's bench will come on and probably kick 4 or 5 points and drive it on. So I'd probably say it will be 8 points in the end, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 15 or 16. It could go either way with Dublin. It really depends on what kind of Dublin team shows up. But it would be unfair to like, Provincial is a perfect example. It would be unfair if Louth didn't have that opportunity to play in a Leinster final in Croke Park. Now the result may not go their way, but look, they had a big win there against Offaly in extra time. So they deserve their day on Croke Park in the Leinster final, and they've got a couple of very good footballers. Sam Mulroy has been excellent for them the last couple of seasons. So it'd be unfair to not give them their day out in Croke Park against Dublin. And I'm hoping that they'll relish that opportunity and go out and literally just tear into them, because Dublin need that going into the next round of games. They need that kind of tough game. So be nice to see.
So on the Dublin end of things, obviously just about getting over the line against Kildare the last day out. Shane, I don't know, did you get to see the game? But like, obviously, is there many kind of warning signs from a Dublin point of view, or do you think they will improve for the weekend?
Yeah, no, I watched the second half in particular. I thought Dublin managed the game quite well. Now they weren't as clinical as they should be. Yeah, it's difficult to see where they're really at after that game. Like, they played Laois in the first game. They went and scored I think it was 4-20 something. So that game will do no harm to them against Kildare. And hopefully this game will not be a walk in the park either against Louth. So I would be confident that Dublin will have learned a lot from that, and they'll try and iron out those the bit of complacency that they may have showed. Look, it's still very early in the year. I think the group games will only suit them, giving them more games and letting that kind of team bubble. And realistically, they'll be semi-final, or if not in the final, they'll be knocking on the door. That's for sure.
Have to ask you also, Shane, obviously you've kind of skin in the game, being about the Dublin setup for like a good number of years. Obviously we've seen some of this stuff coming out in the media there last week, and obviously we don't believe everything we've seen in the media, but I think it was the former Mayo manager, maybe James Horan and Paul Rouse, were kind of saying about some of the advantages that Dublin have in Croke Park, and it was probably bordering on ridiculous, really, Shane, with some of the stuff you were saying. I suppose your thoughts on any of it?
Yeah, it's just like, bordering on ridiculous is I'd have to agree. Like, any game I've ever been a part of, playing or on the bench with Dublin, I've never once seen any different from a Dublin player to a Mayo player or any other county. So yeah, it's madness really. There's nothing really can say more about it. I think it's winners focus on winning, and losers will always start pointing fingers and looking for excuses, where realistically James Horan should probably think of why they lost some of those finals and not be thinking we're going to point the finger at Dublin getting advantages. I just can't see it, to be honest.
Yeah, I just couldn't really get my head around it. It took me a while to try to figure things out, but obviously that's Mr. Horan's thoughts and views on it. And then we'll move on to the Ulster Senior Football Championship final. It's Derry against Armagh. It's going to be in close. It's live at 4 p.m. and then the game will be live on RT2 or BBC NI. So you have your pick this weekend. You'll not have to put the hand in the pocket. Mr. Cardy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think this is probably the fixture of the weekend, really, to be honest. I'm looking forward to watching this one now. I think Derry are really impressive the last couple of games. They haven't had to do too much. They just really, really comfortable. Buddy of mine, Kieran McFall, is back with them. He came on the last day. So I think they're strongly building their squad nicely for this game and for the year. So I think I'd be confident Derry will get the win here. But Armagh, I think Armagh will put it up to them big time. So I would be confident in Derry 4 or 5 points in the end, but who knows? I hope it's a good tight game anyway. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few red cards anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose obviously Armagh probably do need to get their hands on an Ulster Championship fairly quick fast. So I suppose a bit more pressure on Armagh than there is Derry.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if there is or isn't. Derry they won it last year, obviously. So they're going for back-to-back. There's probably equal pressure on both. I think Armagh need to really just get a good performance. Derry seem to be have had a number on them the last couple of years. So it's probably even enough on pressure. Who's on pressure there? But Armagh have been knocking on the door the last couple of years, so they'll probably do a big performance, and they'll need one out of some of their big players. Rian O'Neill, he needs a big game. So it's a tight one. It really is. I'd say that's probably going to be. Hopefully, it has it could be one of the games of the season.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And I obviously have to ask you, but obviously this, I suppose we were probably making a few jokes about it, but obviously you're taking on, obviously, and it's taking up a lot of airtime, GA Go at the minute. Your take, obviously, the GA Go from your end of things, obviously, for people to be able to watch New York games from over the pond. I know you might have to pay a few pounds, but it's taking up a lot of airtime at the minute, Shane.
Yeah, like it seems to be the talking point on all the media forums. I think the GA Go is great for people that are abroad to watch games. Do I think that if you're sitting in Dublin and you can't turn on the Dublin game that's on in Croke Park down the road, and you have to pay for a game on a subscription service? Do I agree with that? No. And I know Don Logue made a really good point about his nephew knowing all the Liverpool players, but didn't know the lads that were playing for Clare in the Munster Championship, because he's not on the telly. So there's definitely an argument for it. I just think that the GA need to do something there, where especially the big games need to be televised by RT, and we need that coverage. Like, the games are brilliant and they need to be shown, and especially in our own in Ireland in particular, like, you need to be having the big game shown on the national TV stations. That's for sure.
Yeah, because it definitely has caused a lot of debate. So I suppose your kind of general thoughts on it is, like, show the games need to be shown, but and obviously a lot of people are saying this is the future. We're in the future now, and obviously pay to watch. But like, your general thoughts, you're in support of it, but you wouldn't mind seeing the big games on RTE and the likes.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's good for me over in the States. It's handy to be able to click in and watch any game with the GA Go. But like, if I was in Dublin, you'd want to be able to watch the Leinster final on RT. Now, I'm sure it probably is this weekend, but there's Munster Championship games there that realistically should have been shown on RT. And it's a comment about are we gone to a rugby country where all the rugby games are shown on RT, and then we're not showing top quality Munster Championship games? Like, I don't know who picks the fixtures or who's involved there, but I'm sure they're under a bit of pressure there the last couple of days from not showing those games.
Yeah, I think Declan McBennett, a penny for his thoughts at this very moment in time. So it's a bit of housekeeping before we jump. Obviously, David Clifford was the GA.E Player of the Week, and then the GA.E Team of the Week was Shane Ryan in nets. It was Johnny McGrath, Sean Kelly, and Dylan Casey, and then a half-back line of Dylan McHugh, Jack McKevitt, and Kerry's Gavin White. Midfield of Peter Cook and Ross Doherty, and then a half-forward line of Matthew Tierney, Johnny Heaney, Shane Farrell, and a full-forward line of Paddy Clifford, David Clifford, and Diary O'Boyle. And that is all in the one. Well, Mr. Cardy, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, the podcast is brought to you by yourgretch.com. Use our code JMac Podcast to get 15% off on their website. Mr. Cardy, the very, very best luck in the Tottenham Cup. We'll be keeping a good eye on you, and take it easy, sir.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, John.
Cheers. Thank you.